It's time for this week's parting shots.
There was one drive in Wednesday's Ravens-Steelers game where Robert Griffin looked familiar, in a good way. Griffin struggled in spot starter duty for Baltimore, looking nothing like the 2012 version that played the best rookie season at quarterback we've ever seen. Before a drive in the second quarter, he ran well, logging his longest run in 8 years, and threw decisively. He's not as fast as he used to be, and that arm that made him a can't-miss prospect doesn't have the same zip, but there was a glimpse of what could have been. The fall of Robert Griffin remains a tragedy. Somehow, he was the future of the NFL, but stuck in the past. The league was beginning to embrace a paradigm shift toward athletic quarterbacks and spread offenses, but wasn't quite sure how to do it. And Griffin, in many ways the prototype of the 2020 quarterback, wanted to be a classic pocket passer because he'd been told his whole life those were real quarterbacks. He's watched his team starter, Lamar Jackson, become an MVP being the quarterback Griffin didn't want to be. His body is now healthy enough to do so without fear or concern. But his time is up and has been for years. The NFL is now everything we expected it would become when we saw Griffin in 2012, but not at all. The league is now full of guys like Griffin, but sadly, he's not one of them.
Shockwaves rippled through the nation's capital on Wednesday after the Wizards traded longtime floor general John Wall to Houston for former MVP Russell Westbrook. The semantics of the deal will long be critiqued, but here's what really matters. John Wall is a DC legend far beyond basketball. Wall was part of the city's culture, in particular its black culture. He was everywhere, from Howard's Homecoming, music videos with Shy Glizzy, celebrity softball games with Wale, yet the city truly loves him because of the 5-time All-Stars connection with the people. Wall, the 2015-16 NBA Cares Community Assist Award winner, has donated money and time to countless charitable causes in DC. His 26-point, 17-assist effort against Boston in 2014 is memorable, but not more than the tears he shed post-game dedicating the performance to a 6-year-old girl he befriended who had recently passed from cancer. And his dedication to DC's Ward 8, one of the city's most impoverished neighborhoods, is his deepest tie. His 202 Assist Foundation raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in rent assistance during the pandemic, and over Thanksgiving, 1,000 meals were distributed to those same residents too. In his own words, I come from that environment. From the outside looking in, a fan base saddened over a point guard who hasn't played in 2 years might be odd. But for the city, not having him here is even odder.
48 of the 546 players in the NBA tested positive for COVID-19 between November 24th and November 30th. That's nearly 9% of the league. Now granted, that's less than the national average of 10%, but you have to consider, is it safe to start an NBA season? Look, it's clear the NBA and its players, like other pro leagues, are accepting some degree of COVID risk, and the 134-page health and safety protocols issued by the league says that independent cases or a small or otherwise expected number of COVID-19 cases won't trigger a decision to suspend or cancel the season. But it's not just the positive test numbers that matter. What seems to get lost in discussions about COVID in sports are the long-term effects of testing positive. Approximately 10% of people who've had COVID-19 experience prolonged symptoms, according to an article in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Thousands upon thousands of people worldwide have suffered symptoms like losing their sense of taste and smell, which happened to Rudy Gobert, or brain fog, fatigue, depression, or heart or respiratory issues months after testing positive. Everyone knows there are risks here. I just wonder how much they're considering the risks that they cannot see, the ones that could affect players for months or years to come.
Back in 1950, the Associated Press polled hundreds of writers for a survey on sports in the first half of the 20th century. Who did the writers choose as the greatest American athletes of those 50 years? Well, 3 of the top 17 were Olympic decathletes. 3, including the athlete chosen as the greatest of them all, Jim Thorpe. But in 1999, when the AP did its greatest athlete of the entire century poll, Thorpe was the only decathlete in the top 50. Rayford Johnson was 61. This week, Johnson died at the age of 86. And let me tell you, there's no way there were 60 athletes in the 20th century greater than Rayford Johnson. At a time when most people considered the Olympic decathlon champion the greatest athlete on the planet, an injured Johnson won the silver medal in 1956 in Melbourne. Then, 4 years later in Rome, he would set the Olympic record to win the gold. Yes, track and field became less important to us in Johnson's lifetime, but that shouldn't diminish our appreciation for his greatness. Johnson also happened to be a man of tremendous integrity, grace, and conviction. He was a champion of the Special Olympics. He was also there in June 1968 when Bobby Kennedy was shot to death in the kitchen pantry at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. Johnson was among those who subdued RFK's assassin. Johnson's was a big life. Playing for John Wooden wasn't near the top of his resume, and he made history again and again. 61, no, Rafer was much bigger than that.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.